Good morning. Let's talk a little bit about the Course in Miracles and about changing core beliefs and how to deal with stress and anxiety, perhaps overcoming some depression, how to deal with stress and dealing with stressful situations that may lead to attack types of situations. Mindfulness meditation techniques to calm down and soothe the soul for listening to answers, and how to turn your life around, making changes in your life for the better. Hey everyone, James Nussbaumer, and thank you for joining me in another episode of For a Better Life podcast. I just love these Sunday morning podcasts because it just feels as though it gets my week started out. However you look at Sunday, I look at Sunday as the beginning of the week because it really is, but not the work week, but I just love these Sunday mornings because it's relaxed time for me. And as I sip on my morning Maxwell House coffee, I'm just dying to talk to you this morning. And by the way, today is October 14th, quite early in the morning. The sun is not up yet. And I'm just sitting here going over a message from two people, a married couple, on my mastermind list, on my mastermind group, Larry and Carla of Santa Fe, New Mexico. Larry and Carla, thank you for messaging in, and I'm going to get to the bottom of your question. Larry and Carla had asked they'd said, is it the fear of the ego that causes us stress and anxiety in any type of situation, is the way Larry kind of firmly put it in his message to me. And he had said that he had read the first 3 books of my series and he loves them, and he just wanted to hear my voice talking a little bit about if we can get a grip on the ego in us, how that just keeps us free from the prison cell, I can say, of stress and anxiety. So let's talk about that, Larry and Carla. And thank you again for being on my mastermind list, my mastermind newsletter group list. And thank you, Larry and Carla, again for supporting my work. I greatly and highly appreciate you. So let's talk about how to deal with stressful situations, or just plain old how to handle the stress and the anxiety. Can be about maybe learning how and when to take control. It's important that we remember that you control how stress and anxiety or worry and doubt, whatever it might be, affects you. And you have the power of choice to take charge of the stress, or let the stress and anxiety just rule over you and eat you up. Let me take another sip of my coffee. So with that said, in book 2 of my series called Mastering Your Own Spiritual Freedom, I really dove into the matter of evaluating yourself from a much larger picture, a much grander picture. Grander, Grandeur, grandeur, the grandeur of God. Seeing yourself from a much larger picture, evaluating yourself from this larger picture of grandeur rather than the grandiosity of the ego-based mind, which I'm going to touch on here in a minute. Or, I could say your point of view when contemplating how to deal with stressful situations. It can make it easier if you're evaluating yourself from that much larger picture. We can say that much larger picture being your highest power, your highest self, your higher power. We hear a lot. Your higher power is God. Some people don't like to use the word G-O-D. I do. I was raised on it. All God means is love and trust and oneness and wholeness that we all are. You can substitute the word if you'd like. So if you don't like the word G-O-D, God, which I don't think that's the case for most of you listening, but if someone is listening, then there's no offense taken there. Use whatever word that you want. So evaluate yourself again from that much larger picture, that oneness that you are with your higher power, that oneness without separation. Remember that word. That is the key word in today's podcast, understanding separation. Bear with me. So let's start contemplating on how to deal with stressful situations. Well, first of all, let me share a wonderful spiritual metaphysical principle from the Course in Miracles. And the Course in Miracles teaches that the fearful and doubting, the ego, which is that fearful and doubting aspect in us. I like to substitute it and say the ego is that doubting Thomas aspect in us. But the ego is that fearful and doubting and judgmental and self-critic and criticizing others and judging others and telling others how to lead their life, or telling your own self and scolding yourself and berating yourself when you make a mistake. That's the ego in you. So the ego, that fearful and doubting aspect in us all, the Course in Miracles teaches us, is trying to teach us how to gain the whole, W-H-O-L-E, the whole, rather than separation. It's trying to teach us how to, we're trying to learn how to gain the whole, but the ego wants us not to gain the whole, but the ego can only think of gain or loss. The ego can't understand oneness. So therefore, the ego wants us to then go ahead and gain the whole, try to gain oneness to sell out our own soul in the process. Bear with me. That thought truly keeps me aligned when I understand answers that are going to arrive within myself on how to deal with stress. Therefore, I no longer have to worry about selling my soul to gain my freedom or my goals in life or my dreams to be achieved, because when I'm operating from wholeness of mind, oneness of mind, I'm operating from the God essence that is of me. In other words, my oneness with my Creator God, my oneness with you that are listening to me. We are one with our Creator. We are not separate from our Creator. Our Creator is not somewhere out there beyond the sun and stars and way zillions of miles out there somewhere looking down on us. No, we are of Him. He is with us everywhere we go. Now, bear with me on that thought. He is with me everywhere I go. So that kind of leads me into where we're going here when I say A Course in Miracles has taught me that the ego, that fearful and doubting aspect in me, is trying to teach me how to gain oneness by losing my soul in the process. And that's, see, the ego's about either losing or winning. In eternity, where there's all oneness and no conflict, there is no such thing as winning and losing. Another sip of coffee, please. So that thought, like I'd said, of wholeness, where there is no thought of gaining or losing or winning versus any type of loss, when you're operating from your highest power. So that in itself can put you at ease. And also that's why I urge that you learn how to do mindfulness meditation if you have not already learned how. Mindfulness meditation is just a word. You can call it soulful meditation if you want. It doesn't matter. Meditation is meditation. It gets you to that alpha state that I like to say, which is that beginning of your creativity, in that alpha state where you start to create, and then you listen for answers as what to do next in your creative process of what you're doing while you're in this world. That's what meditation can do for you, is to receive the answers from within you, not from somewhere out there. There's nothing out there. The only thing that's out there is what you project from your human body. You are one, so meditation gets you to that oneness. That's all that there is. So it's why it is highly suggested too that you just find the mindfulness meditation technique that works right for you and what you're most comfortable with. Now, if you're at YouTube listening to this podcast right now, keep in mind that in the description area down below is a wonderful access link on a free video. It's called The Power Within You, the access link. You'll see it. You can access that, and it will give you a free video on how the most highly effective people who have ever walked among us have learned to operate through within themselves rather than trying to reach outward. So I hope that you'll access that. Now, if you're at my website listening to that, down below you'll see an image where it says go here for mind secrets on dealing with stress. Click on that, it will give you the same option to watch that video. So let's go on and let me share a story here with you. First of all, that in my second book of the series, Mastering Your Own Spiritual Freedom, subtitle Lessons from A Course in Miracles, I really went into detail on this story. So I'm gonna borrow this story from my own book today in this morning's podcast. But here's the story on understanding a little bit about stress, in that when you operate from the oneness of your higher power, when you operate from the oneness of God, that stress can be easily handled and put out. Well, let me take another sip of this coffee. So this is the story. It was during the 1970s. As a young man, I was in the U.S. Air Force, and I loved the United States Air Force. And there was a conflict going on in the world involving the country of Angola. Now, I was just brand new to the Air Force. Was getting ready just to earn my first stripe before I was going to go on to further education to raise my rank even higher and all that. So I was brand new, not knowing what the heck's going on, and I was just overwhelmed. But it was a wonderful, overwhelming kind of experience. But during the 1970s, actually that time was 1976, and as a young man, I was in the U.S. Air Force, like I had said, and there was a conflict going on in Angola, if anyone can remember that. And at the time, President Ford was our president, President Gerald Ford. And at that time, I was stationed at an Air Force base in Texas, and I was going through a part of my training that was survival training. It was several weeks of survival training, and how to deal with stress was part of it, because stressful situations can come up if you are in a survival mode. And basically, survival training for me in the U.S. Air Force was very intense training to cope with all the extreme and the toughest of conditions imaginable, in how to deal with stressful situations and how to make life-sustaining decisions on my own when I was, for the most part, alone. Say if an aircraft landed in the ocean that crashed and I was on that, or in a jungle somewhere. And so how to make life-sustaining decisions when you were, for the most part, alone and facing tremendous turmoil was what this training was about. And it was very intense training at this Air Force base in Texas. They had a jungle there that they took us through, and it was just amazing. It was awesome. By the way, let me interrupt and say I've got a related article at my website on why changing core beliefs may turn your life around. jamesnussbaumer.com/changing core beliefs will get you there. So let's get back to my survival training. And the squadron commander called us all together into a classroom to inform our squadron. In the Air Force, your unit is called, basically on the higher level, not the highest level, but that level, a squadron. A squadron could be compared to what the Army would call a platoon, but in the Air Force it's called a squadron. So the squadron commander called us all together into a training classroom to inform every one of us in the squadron that we were being flighted out that night to Angola as ordered by President Ford. Oh my God, I was in awe. It was just brand new here. All of a sudden, now I'm going to be shipped out. Well, we were ordered not to make any phone calls home or write letters for obvious security reasons. And needless to say, we were all stunned and up against how to deal with stressful situations. We hadn't even finished our training program yet. And here all of a sudden, I was just floored. I don't know if I can do this yet. Am I fully trained? I'm going to go off somewhere to Angola. I don't even know where Angola is. I'm thinking at that young age. So at that point in our training, we were learning about enemy tactics of propaganda designed to promote in our minds perceptions of false and negative situations, causing an airman like myself, causing an Air Force person, an airman, to make rash decisions while hung up in how to deal with stressful situations. So that's why we were in this was a very serious, intense area about how to deal with propaganda. Things that if you're captured by the enemy and they're going to feed you a bunch of propaganda, what not to, why you shouldn't believe what they say, and what the enemy's trying to tell you is you've got to block it out. So anyways, that evening, after our big lesson on propaganda, actually it was called Rumors and Propaganda, the name of that session. So how to be careful when you're listening to rumors and all the propaganda out there. Just another sip of coffee, excuse me. Well, that evening, with first of all, the commander told us to get all our gear, our duffel bag packed and ready to go, and get ready to head to the flight line. That evening, with our full travel gear in check, we gathered at the designated meeting place, where Major Remming, which was our squadron commander at the time, announced to us that we had been fooled. And he laughed. Although Angola was very much a conflict situation going on, and there was deployment of troops going to Angola, but although Angola was very much a conflict situation, the deployment orders for my squadron were fake. They had fooled us in order that we might learn how our individual minds might react. Wow, I still remember that. Earlier that day, we realized the orders were phony and did actually believe. First, let me back up. Earlier that day, we realized, earlier that day, before, was what I'm trying to say. Earlier that day, before we realized the orders were phony and did actually believe we were going to this hostile area, Captain Jenkins, who was the psychologist, and he was also the chaplain, he gave us a talk about how we need to deal with the stress we're going through right now in our minds about being ready to be shipped to Angola. And we were told we would be briefed once we got on the aircraft about what our part would be once we got there. So Captain Jenkins, the psychologist, remember, we still thought, this was earlier in the day, we still thought we were going to Angola. Captain Jenkins, the psychologist, the chaplain, also gave us this talk about how to deal with stressful situations and making split-second decisions. He urged us to carry along a message in our hearts. Then he went on to describe to us a dream that he once had. He said, "In this dream, I was walking along the beach with my Lord. Across the dark sky flashed scenes from my life. Each scene showed a time when I was not able to make decisions and was terribly confused." Captain Jenkins went on to say, "As I watched, I saw two sets of footprints in the sand in this dream he was having. One belonging to me and one belonging to my Lord," Captain Jenkins had said. "When the last scene of my life shot before me, I looked back at the footprints," Captain Jenkins said, "the footprints in the sand, and there was only one set of footprints. I realized that this was the lowest and toughest time of my life. This bothered me, Captain Jenkins said, and I questioned my Lord about my dilemma. Lord, you told me when I decided to follow you that you would walk with me and talk with me and help me along the way. But I see that during my hardest test, there is only one set of footprints. I don't understand why when I needed you the most, you left me. How could you leave me? The Lord whispered into Captain Jenkins, as Captain Jenkins told us. The Lord, we were sitting on the edge of our seats listening to Captain Jenkins. He said, the Lord whispered to me, my brother, I love you and I will never leave you. For we are together, we are one. Where you saw only one set of footprints, it was because we were carrying each other. I will never let anything harm you. Wow. Now, so many years later, I am often reminded of this story because I was thinking I was going to some hostile area. And like I said, I fell for the propaganda and the rumors. But so what a valuable lesson that was from Captain Jenkins, a psychologist back then. But like I said, so many years later, I'm so often reminded of this story. Let me tell you what A Course in Miracles states. A Course in Miracles states in this wonderful spiritual metaphysical principle that says, opposites must be brought together, not kept apart. For the separation is only in your mind. Speaking of that, here's a related article at my website I urge you to check out too, jamesnussbaumer.com/coping with anxiety and overcoming fear by the truth within you that is ever so powerful, the real truth within you. I hope you enjoyed this session today. And Larry and Carla of Santa Fe, I hope that kind of hit home with you and answered your question about why the ego in us, that doubting Thomas aspect in us, fearful, judgmental, critical, worrying aspect in us will, yes, definitely cause you to have stress and anxiety. And the ego feeds on stress and anxiety, and it doesn't know anything else. Please support my work. If you've enjoyed this podcast today, I invite you to join the free version of my Everyday Miracles newsletter. And when you are ready, I encourage you to check into the subscription-only version of my mastermind community, a community of minds where we help each other bring our mind together for self-success and a better world. Not everyone's ready for that subscription-only version of the mastermind group that I have, which is at my website under subscriptions. But that's fine. At least you might want to check out the free version called the Everyday Miracles newsletter. I would love to have you on my subscriber list. And by the way, please follow me on Facebook, Twitter. I do some heavy engaging on Twitter for some reason. And please follow me on YouTube. Also, you'll note if you're at my website that I have a GoFundMe page. I hope that you'll check that out, because it's if you would like to make a donation to enhance my work that I put so much effort into to help the world, to learn how to overcome their errors and to learn how to use the mental power of our mistakes and reverse that around and turn that power into positive results, is what I write about, is what my books are about. My campaign, which involves lectures and my books and all my articles and everything at my website, is a huge, tremendous cost. And authors like myself are faced with this cost on our own. So if you feel the urge to make a donation, I will be so happy and thrilled with you. Also, you'll notice that I also recommend at my website other people that help the world, like other authors. There are life coaches, psychologists, marriage counselors, dietitians, other people that are experts in helping you with personal development in fields that I am not qualified to give you advice on. Such as if you're having relationship issues right now. I'm not a qualified marriage counselor, but I can refer you to someone who I've thoroughly checked out and believe in their system for improvement in your relationships, and so on with anything else that you see. So I hope that if you need help in a certain area, I hope that you will look into that. Please feel free, excuse me, please feel free to tune into my or tool around at my website anywhere you would like. And as always, before I close, I always like to say, I hope you're thinking a lot about your own life and all the natural, awesome beauty that is within you. I mean, within you, within your God essence. I'm not talking about your body, but yes, that's awesome as well. I'm talking about the real you that is awesome within yourself. That real you within yourself is the same real you within myself. That connection, that interconnectedness that we have is the universe. It is the universe. The universe we see up in the sky at night is only a projection from our human body. The universe we see of the stars and the moon and all its glory and all that beautiful with a shooting star darting by, and we see the Big Dipper, all the glory of a midnight sky. That is a projection from our human body, projecting the awesomeness that is within us to the material world. So when we all together can share the universe within us each, when we are all interconnected together, that's when we make life achievements and learn to live a happy, wonderful life. And that's why I urge you to look in within you to the awesomeness that sits within you and learn to reflect that awesomeness to your material world to get the life that you want. I hope that makes sense. And I've got to run now. It was time well spent for me. I hope it was for you. I think you were awesome. I hope you benefited today. And I've got to run. Thanks again for listening to me. James Nussbaumer signing off.